brilliant lights, festive colors, people out and about enjoying the sights of the season. It's Christmas time in Caracas. That's the capital of Venezuela, where the vast majority of citizens usually celebrate this holiday. But this year, festivities began 2 months earlier than usual because Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro declared they would. He says people celebrate Christmas whenever they want to, and that this year from October 1st until January 15th, the country would mark the season of Christmas and New Year's. Reactions have been mixed. Some of those out for the occasion said it's a welcome change and that the decorations are beautiful. Some critics said the move is meant to distract Venezuelans from a political crisis. Over the summer, President Maduro won re-election, but his government wouldn't show the vote tallies to prove it, and there were large protests as a result. The South American country's also been struggling with an economic crisis, leaving some concerned about what they'd be able to afford this Christmas. President Maduro has declared an early start to the season before in an attempt to increase his approval ratings. Hi, I'm Carl Azuz for The World from A to Z. It's been a week since Hurricane Helene made landfall in Florida and roared through several other American states on its way north. But authorities are still making rescues. They still don't know the extent of the damage in some areas, and for many people, possibly thousands, the power's still out and there's no running water or cell phone service. Officials say the storm claimed more than 200 lives, with flooding in North Carolina responsible for most of the deaths. Hundreds are still missing, and more than 6,700 members of the National Guard have been deployed to help. The U.S. Federal Emergency Management Agency says the layout of the Appalachian Mountains and their communities have complicated efforts to reach victims. But planes and helicopters, some flown by volunteers, are making airdrops of emergency supplies. Mule trains have been brought in to get people what they need, and a lot of efforts are being made on foot.
I walk with a man who plans to deliver 2 5-gallon cans of gasoline and food to a friend whose storm-damaged house is at the bottom of a North Carolina gorge. The only road in and out was largely destroyed in the storm. So now you can only leave via emergency helicopter or by taking a vigorous and muddy 3-mile hike out about 1,000 feet up. We arrive at the bottom after about 90 minutes of hiking. Houses, RVs, cars, trucks destroyed. Roads have disappeared into the Green River, which is now so wide it's unrecognizable to residents. As of now, there have been no reports of deaths in the gorge or serious injuries. This is where your house was before the storm.
Yes, sir. This is where my house was. The front corner to the kitchen, right across that monkey grass. Door be facing right at us, just to the left of that push mower.
Okay, and here's this huge tree.
Yeah, the house got pivoted.
Here's where it is.
Turned to arrive there against those trees before the debris trapped it, so it didn't continue going down and around back into the river like most debris did here.
Before hiking out of the gorge, Josh Parker finally gets to his friend Brian's house, only to find he's not there. We are told Brian was airlifted out just hours earlier, when his health became a concern. Brian's dog Maggie wasn't taken on the chopper, but volunteers are about to take Maggie on the long hike out of the muddy gorge.
A word of knowledge. Hercule Poirot, a famous fictional detective, was created by what author? Stephen King, Carolyn Keene, Agatha Christie, Arthur Conan Doyle. The Belgian detective is the protagonist of the fictitious novel Murder on the Orient Express, which was written by Agatha Christie.
On this date in world history. If we were living in 1582, tomorrow would be October 15th. That's because Pope Gregory XIII was dropping the Julian calendar, named for Julius Caesar, for the Gregorian calendar, named for the Pope. And in order to line up the dates better with the vernal equinox, he took out 10 days, so the date went right from October 4th to October 15th. Since then, the Gregorian calendar has been adopted almost everywhere. On this date in 1883, it was all aboard the Orient Express. The train first began its route from Paris, France to the Turkish city of Istanbul, then known as Constantinople, and people who could afford it got their first taste of luxury long-distance travel. The full route ran until 1977. And this was the date in 1957 when the Soviet Union launched the space race by launching Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite to orbit Earth. The advancement caught the U.S., its main Cold War rival, off guard. It'd be months before America got its own satellite into space.
Where in the world? This is an East African republic that gained its independence from Britain in 1963. Its official languages are English and Kiswahili. It's located between Ethiopia and Tanzania, and its capital is Nairobi. This is Kenya, a nation of more than 58 million people.
They spar in the streets of Nairobi, Kenya, practicing their parries and ripostes as passers-by stop to watch. For them, fencing is not just a hobby, it teaches discipline and accountability to young people living in Nairobi's poorest neighborhoods.
On guard.
Fencing has given them a path away from crime, drugs, and other social pressures.
I used to be a gangster. I was in crime, and crime makes you feel isolated. It actually puts you in a place where you're isolated, making you feel depressed, having stress. And I chose fencing for a way for me to escape out of the hood and escape that lifestyle.
Mburu Wanyoike founded Savora Fencing in 2021. He's a coach and competes on Kenya's national team. Wanyoike says it can be tough competing against countries with more resources and better equipment.
We don't complain or we don't have equipment. We just use what we got, and putting in the obsession and the enthusiasm and the passion combined, that's what we do. We fence.
Fencing has been in every modern Olympics since the first one in 1896. But the sport dates back much earlier. Its roots are in sword fighting. Unlike sword fighting, serious injuries are rare. Fencers wear protective clothing, gloves, and masks. Their uniforms are all white because in the early days, the foil had colored dye on the end, which would mark the clothing if the fencer scored with a touch. Modern equipment has electric sensors, so the white clothing isn't needed for scoring anymore, but fencers still wear it as tradition.
Going coast to coast on today's World of Viewers segment, starting in the Pine Tree State of Maine, Mrs. Marchand's class is watching from Bangor Regional Program in the city of Bangor, Oklahoma. Welcome to Mr. Strayer's class at Whittier Middle School. The Warriors are watching from the city of Norman in the Sooner State. And Mr. Houghton, thank you and your students of Ridgeview High School for joining us from the city of Bakersfield in the Golden State of California. Let's go Wolfpack! It's Fat Bear Week at Alaska's Katmai National Park. With names like Grazer, Chunk, and 747, you know you're in for an unbearleavable bear presentation of absorbed bear tint bear portions. The park uses the occasion as a teaching tool about brown bears. The animals use the warmer months to pack on prodigious poundage by gorging themselves on all the fish and other food they can find. It prepares them for the winter hibernation when they'll lose a third of their body weight, and fans are encouraged to view them online, fill out a bracket, and vote on the fattest and most successful brown bear. If they fish or they forage, it takes a lot of porridge to fill up all their storage that their stomachs encourage them to gorge, so they forage pounds they want to keep on. And they heap on all the berries they can bear on their plate, a salmonstrosity of portions that's all well worth the wait, a cornucopia of all the veggies they can knock down, so when it's time to bed down, they've got it Goldie locked down. I'm Carl Azuz. Fridays are awesome. This is the world from A to Z, and you mean the world to me.